You might be watching this video at any time during the year, depending on when you started the series, but I'm making this video on Good Friday, the day we remember the crucifixion of Jesus. We're not reading that part of the scripture today, but no matter what time of year it is for you, before we start, I just want to say, praise God for loving us so much. Hi, I'm Justin Lee, and this is A Year of Bible. Today we're reading the final chapter of Jesus' famous Sermon on the Mount. We started it 2 days ago in Matthew 5, continued it yesterday in Matthew 6, and today in Matthew 7 we get the conclusion, including some of my favorite bits of the whole thing. Let's read.
Do not judge, or you will be judged. For with the same judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but fail to notice the beam in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, "Let me take the speck out of your eye," while there is still a beam in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the beam out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Do not give dogs what is holy. Do not throw your pearls before swine. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and then turn and tear you to pieces. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds. And to him who knocks, the door will be opened. Which of you, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? So if you who are evil know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? In everything, then, do to others as you would have them do to you. For this is the essence of the law and the prophets. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the way that leads to life, and only a few find it. Beware of false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So then, by their fruit you will recognize them. Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons and perform many miracles?' Then I will tell them plainly, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.' Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain fell, the torrents raged, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because its foundation was on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain fell, the torrents raged, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was its collapse." When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were astonished at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority, and not as their scribes. Imagine for a moment that your life ended today. And suddenly, without warning, you find yourself standing in an empty courtroom with God presiding as the judge. And as you stand there,
Without a word, God pulls out a giant book with your name on it. In this book are written all the things you ever did in your life. Every lie you ever told, every sin you ever committed, every person you ever hurt, and every time you hurt them. The bad things you did that no one ever knew about are all written there in excruciating detail. The times you were selfish, the times you were prideful, the times you were jealous, the times you were a hypocrite. God slowly turns the pages, one by one, silently reading about each and every one of these events. And the whole time, all you can think is how there's just so much more bad stuff written there than you expected. You'd thought you'd lived a pretty decent life, but now seeing it all written out, you realize with horror that there are just so many more bad things than you ever would have imagined. So many things you'd forgotten about, things that at the time didn't feel like such a big deal, but now look really bad in the harsh light of day. And you realize something else, too. You'd expected to have your deeds compared against someone else's. And there are people you'd always felt like were much worse than you, but they're not here in this courtroom. You're not being measured against any of them. The only other book there is Jesus' book, which is filled with good deeds upon good deeds, self-sacrifice and humility and resisting temptation at every turn. And seeing your book next to his, you suddenly realize for the first time just how far you really fell short in your life. So finally, after what seems like an eternity, God finishes reading, closes the book, and looks down at you. What would you hope that God would say in that moment? Words of justice, giving you exactly what you deserve, or words of mercy, loving you for the good in you and forgiving you for all those many, many bad choices, even though you don't deserve it? I know what I'd want. Mercy, not fairness. And I'm willing to bet that's what you'd want too. If not, then I'm afraid you're in denial about the reality of your own sin. A recurring theme in Jesus' teachings is that we think we want fairness, but we really don't. We want mercy. Fairness is not in our best interest the way we think it is. We need mercy from God. And if we want mercy from God, we need to show mercy to others. Jesus says it so plainly here. Do not judge, or you will be judged. For with the same judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. We can't go through life looking down on people for all their wrong choices and holding grudges against people for all the ways they've fallen short in our lives, and then turn around and ask God to forgive us for all our wrong choices and all the times we've fallen short. Now, the command not to judge doesn't mean we stop caring about what's true or what's good. If we're going to live holy lives ourselves, then of course that's going to involve making wise choices and distinguishing good from evil. And unless you hide away from the world, that means you're going to be interacting every day with people who've made different choices and have different beliefs, people doing or believing things that you're pretty sure are wrong, including some of your fellow Christians. And this got me in a lot of trouble when I was young, because if I was sure I was right on some point of doctrine and that someone else was wrong, I was quick to tell them so. And if they said something like, well, Jesus said not to judge, I would say, I'm not being judgmental. I'm just telling you the truth in love because I don't want you to go down a sinful path. And I know if you've ever had someone say that to you, you're probably cringing right now. And you're right. I was totally wrong in how I handled those situations. My intentions were good. I really did think I was helping people, not judging them. The trouble is, in my pride, it had never occurred to me that I could be wrong about any of those points of disagreement. I was so sure that I was right and they were wrong. But now looking back, I think I was on the wrong side of at least some of those disagreements, judging them when it was my prideful ignorance that was the problem. But even on those issues where I do think I was right, I should have paid more attention to what Jesus says next in this passage. Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but fail to notice the beam in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, while there is still a beam in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the beam out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. The translation I grew up with said plank instead of beam, or some translations say log, but the idea is the same. Don't try to get a speck out of someone else's eye when you have a huge chunk of wood in your own, clouding your vision. And the truth is, we all have planks in our own eyes. Every one of us. As long as we have sin in our lives, including the pride of thinking we're so much better than that other person, we are in no position to lecture them about their sin. Even on the occasions where I was right and the other person really was sinning, my own vision was still so clouded by my pride that I didn't need to be telling them what they were doing wrong. I needed to be working on my own pride. I thought I was doing God a great service by lecturing others about their sin, but in reality, you know what I was probably doing most of all? I was probably just making them hate Christians more. I was probably just proving all their stereotypes, that Christians are judgmental hypocrites who would rather point fingers at other people and lecture them about their sin rather than work on our own sinful hearts. I regret that very much. There's a bigger conversation to have here, of course, because there is a time and place for accountability, but I think it needs to be under very specific circumstances. After all, Jesus tells us here to treat others the way we would want to be treated, and none of us want to be lectured by people who think they know better than us when they've never walked a mile in our shoes. But I think if we Christians really understood how far we all still have to go, if we could keep that courtroom scene in mind every day, not to make us feel bad, but to realize how much we need God's grace, I think it would help us to focus on the job Jesus gave us to do. Not to judge others, or go around trying to get the specks out of all their eyes, but to love them where they are, focusing our energies on getting those giant planks out of our own eyes, while giving everyone else grace.